What if the biggest moment of someone's life was also the moment they nearly lost themselves forever? Behind the standing ovations, flashing lights, and viral fame, one man's dream come true hid a haunting truth no one saw coming. Why did Simon Cowell pause mid-praise to hint at a secret pain? And what was captured in the final performance that the cameras didn't show? This is the story America thought it understood, until the confetti fell. Stay with us, because what happened after the spotlight faded will leave you speechless. Richard Goodall had always lived between brooms and bells, lost in the echoes of empty school corridors. In Terre Haute, Indiana, he was known as the quiet custodian who carried a voice too big for the small town he never left. While wiping down lockers and sweeping floors, he'd hum rock ballads under his breath. Songs that, in another life, he might have performed under dazzling lights. His life was filled with silent sacrifices, with every paycheck going to keep the lights on and support the woman he loved, Angie. Few knew he was still healing from losing his first wife to illness, a wound that never quite faded. But everything changed with one unplanned moment: a shaky cell phone video taken during a school assembly. Within days, it exploded across social media. His rendition of Journey's "Don't Stop Believin'" captured something raw, something real, and in less than a week, it racked up over 1 million views. Suddenly, people began asking, who is this janitor with a rock star soul? That's when Simon Cowell took notice. And when Simon pays attention, it usually means one thing: the world is about to change. Richard was soon invited to audition for America's Got Talent. For a man who had barely ventured outside Indiana, stepping into that colossal spotlight felt like falling into another universe. He'd never walked a red carpet or stood before roaring crowds, and yet here he was, center stage, under hot lights, trembling with nerves. Then Simon spoke. "Richard, you know what's special about you. But I have to be honest, I don't accept this." The air turned heavy. Gasps filled the room. But before panic could take hold, Simon added, "I don't accept this as just a performance. This is a moment people will talk about forever." And just like that, the janitor with the golden voice became a national phenomenon. But fame doesn't erase fear. In fact, it magnifies it. Richard's life flipped upside down. From scrubbing halls to signing autographs, he was now on magazine covers and trending across platforms. But behind the sparkle, there was hesitation. He missed his late wife in every quiet moment. Angie, his fiancée, kept reminding him that this was destiny. Still, she saw how the pressure gnawed at him, how the camera lights made him feel both seen and exposed. He was grateful, but cautious. Simon Cowell later confirmed what fans had suspected. Richard had been on AGT's radar long before his audition. The show had quietly tracked his rise, debating whether his story was too good to be true. And that's where the tension began. Was Richard just another feel-good viral story? Or was he hiding something deeper, something the public hadn't seen yet? That question followed him like a shadow. As the next round of the show arrived, the expectations were higher than ever. Richard stepped onto the stage again, this time singing an Elton John classic that revealed a depth no one was prepared for. The room fell into a hush. Simon leaned forward, his voice unusually measured. "You're different, Richard. There's something people connect with in your story, but I feel there's something you're still holding back." The crowd shifted uneasily. Online forums lit up. Was it his finances? A secret about his past? Theories swirled like wildfire. While Simon didn't clarify, insiders whispered about Richard's financial tightrope. Before AGT, Richard lived on a modest salary. He drove a 2011 Chevy Impala with over 200,000 miles on it and never wore a watch more expensive than $50. He and Angie shared a small 2-bedroom home, rented, not owned. Yet now, agents were calling. Deals were on the table. Lifestyle offers flooded in. Rolex endorsements, home renovation shows, private jet appearances. Richard remained hesitant. He wanted to stay grounded, protect what mattered. Behind the scenes, his financial advisors moved quickly, setting up protections. They began mapping insurance policies, life, health, and even voice insurance, which is rare but crucial for performers whose income depends on vocal ability. His team started exploring investment strategies, modest real estate outside LA, revenue-sharing deals in small music startups, and a possible memoir deal. Richard didn't want flash. He wanted freedom. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing stability. And still, the doubts grew. Could he withstand the glare of the spotlight without losing himself? One fan post summed it up perfectly. "We love Richard because he's real. I just hope the industry doesn't chew him up." That's the irony of sudden fame. It blesses you while quietly testing your limits. Hooked by the voice, the world forgot to ask about the man behind it. As applause echoed louder with each performance, so did the silence in Richard's mind. What else was coming? What was Simon really hinting at? Fame had opened the door to a dream, but it had also stirred up secrets he hadn't fully confronted. In the eyes of millions, he was a beacon of hope. But backstage, he was still a man walking a tightrope, grateful, haunted, and unsure what tomorrow might reveal. Each time Richard walked off stage, he would find himself humming songs from the 1980s, melodies that once filled a house he no longer came home to. His late wife's memory lingered like a soft echo through every lyric. Was the stage his tribute or his escape? Producers begged for more vulnerability, sensing his pain would boost ratings. But Richard only gave fragments, guarded answers, distant smiles. It wasn't a refusal to connect. It was self-preservation. Fans called him a beacon of hope, unaware of how much hope he himself needed just to keep going. Then came a late-night call that pulled the rug from beneath him. A family member had fallen seriously ill. As AGT rehearsals buzzed around him, the excitement felt increasingly hollow. Guilt crept in like a chill. He confided in Angie, his closest confidant, who begged him not to give up. "You've come too far," she whispered. But that didn't quiet the storm within him. As he stood beneath the AGT lights the next day, the audience unaware of his sleepless night, he sang a ballad that left the room still. His voice quivered with truth. The judges raved. But Simon wasn't fooled. "You've got everything," he said, eyes fixed. "But where do you want this to lead?" That moment froze time. Richard's silence spoke louder than any high note. And just as he looked ready to speak, a stagehand rushed in. Commercial break. Backstage, whispers turned to wild speculation. Was he hiding a secret too painful to reveal? Could this beloved underdog actually be drowning beneath the fame he never asked for? Back home in Tyrut, the love was overflowing. Watch parties lit up the neighborhood. Local news dubbed him the town's treasure. But with the praise came pressure. His every past misstep was now headline gold. One reporter uncovered that he'd once led a small-town band, his voice always a gift, yet stifled by personal battles. Another unearthed traces of medical debt tied to his late wife's long illness. Suddenly, tabloids turned raw truth into sensational spin. Janitor hides hidden debt. Hometown hero's tragic past confirmed. The fame that once lifted him now felt like chains. During a video call, Richard's face dropped its smile. "Everyone wants me to be happy," he told Angie, "but there's so much that's still undone." The weight of his hometown's dreams, his judges' expectations, and his personal grief all collided. If he quit, he'd crush hearts. If he stayed, he risked shattering his own. Simon saw it. That 1,000-yard stare, that quiet collapse behind the curtain. During a rare private moment, he offered advice not as a producer, but as a man who's watched many rise and fall. "You need to choose, Richard. Fame or peace. Sometimes they don't coexist. Richard turned away, blinking back emotion. That line hit harder than any critique ever had. Old friends from Tarut voiced concern. "He's always been the calm guy," his former teacher said. "But I hope this spotlight isn't squeezing the life out of him." Online fans debated his well-being. Some noted his fidgeting. Others saw only a humble man overwhelmed by love. But tension tightened its grip when he missed a press event. Exhaustion, the team claimed. Still he advanced, each performance greeted with louder cheers. Yet his eyes hinted at a man barely holding it together. The irony was piercing. The more fragile he seemed, the more people adored him. But admiration couldn't mend the ache. And with the semi-finals approaching, that ache was turning into a crossroads. Should he press on for the fans or retreat for his soul? Meanwhile, Richard's financial journey was a tale of humble beginnings, defying expectation. He once swept floors for minimum wage, scraping by in a rented one-bedroom apartment. But post-AGT exposure opened new doors. Endorsement deals trickled in, swelling his net worth from under $30,000 to nearly $850,000 in under a year. If he stayed the course, insiders projected a leap into the $2 to $3 million range by next season, thanks to recording contracts, sponsorships, and speaking gigs already lining up. Real estate agents even reported that Richard had begun browsing homes in the Nashville and Asheville regions, eyeing properties with quiet gardens and space to breathe. One insider said he was drawn to a historic cottage near the Blue Ridge Mountains, something grounded, peaceful. As for cars, Richard kept it modest, a 2012 Toyota Camry. But whispers suggested he'd been gifted a luxury upgrade by a music label, a sleek black Audi A7, symbolic of the life he never imagined. He wore no high-end watches, no flashy chains, just a leather-banded Seiko gifted by his late wife, still ticking on his wrist during each performance. He didn't own a private jet. He didn't need one. All he craved was calm. The moment Richard stepped onto that grand stage, the world held its breath. His eyes scanned the massive crowd, lights blazing like a storm above him. But his mind wasn't on the stage. It was still chasing echoes of pain from his past. The performance he was about to give wasn't just a chance at stardom. It was a tightrope walk between healing and heartbreak. One wrong step, and everything he'd built could shatter. That night wasn't just about music. It was a silent war between a man's strength and his sorrow, and the audience could feel the weight of it hanging in the air. When Richard began singing a stripped-down rendition of a 70s classic, his voice trembled not from fear, but from sheer emotion. Every word felt like it was pulled from the core of his soul. Then, halfway through the performance, he suddenly paused. His voice cracked. The room froze. No one moved. The orchestra hesitated, and for a second it felt like the silence might swallow him whole. But Richard, carrying grief like armor, closed his eyes, took a breath, and surged forward. His final verses rang out, raw and piercing, and when he finished, the crowd exploded into applause. But beneath the surface, Richard was unraveling. Backstage, he wasn't basking in glory. Instead, he sat alone, buried behind equipment cases, tears silently streaming down his face. The chaos outside couldn't reach him in that moment. Not the praise, not the celebration, just the echoes of everything he had lost. The stage that once represented his dream now mirrored his deepest pain. He wasn't sure if he could go on. And just when he thought he could disappear into silence, Simon Cowell's voice cut through the noise of the aftermath. "There's something the world's been whispering about," Simon said. "But I'm going to say it aloud. You're holding something inside that you need to release, or it's going to break you." It wasn't a critique. It was a lifeline. The air thickened as the room held its breath. Richard couldn't find the words, but his tears did all the talking. Social media lit up instantly. Simon finally confirms what fans suspected. There's something deeper behind Richard's voice. It wasn't just talent that carried him. It was the weight of heartbreak hidden in every note. Within the hour, a backstage journalist cornered him with a mic and probing questions. Richard hesitated. For a moment, he considered walking away. But then, something in him shifted. He looked straight into the camera and, with a trembling voice, shared the truth. "I lost my wife to cancer," he said quietly. "I never wanted this to be part of my story, but I've been drowning." That one sentence broke the internet. Fans and strangers flooded his socials with support, praising his bravery, aching for his sorrow. Simon later revealed that he had sensed Richard's struggle from their very first encounter. "He's got a voice that moves people," Simon explained. "But I knew he was carrying something that needed to be heard beyond the music." Across Richard's hometown of Terre Haute, friends and family gathered to support him. His fiancée Angie spoke through tears to local reporters, saying, "He's always carried this grief, and I just want people to see the strength it takes to keep going." But not everyone backstage understood. Producers smelled a ratings opportunity and pushed him to share even more. Details, moments, memories, all on air. Richard refused. He shut himself inside a soundproof booth, ignoring every knock except Angie's voice over the phone. "You're not exploiting your past," she reassured. "You're helping others feel seen." The next morning, Richard's Instagram post revealed the quiet strength inside him. "Music gave me hope when everything went dark," he wrote. "This isn't just a competition. It's how I'm learning to breathe again." The post was met with a tidal wave of love. Thousands of comments poured in, each one a small light pushing back the darkness. But the finals were approaching fast, and the pressure to reveal more never stopped. The world wanted his story, his pain, his soul. As the final results loomed, anxiety crept in behind the curtains. When his name was finally announced and confetti showered the stage, it was a surreal blur. Cameras flashed. Angie embraced him. And yet, Richard seemed to float above the celebration. He had won the title but lost his way. For a man once scrubbing floors in Indiana, this felt like an out-of-body experience, not the victory dance he'd imagined. Even after the shows, the press, and the instant stardom, a different kind of fatigue settled in, one not cured by applause. As invitations to red carpets and high-profile collaborations rolled in, Richard began to make choices that shocked industry insiders. He turned down brand endorsements and skipped major events. The whispers began again. Is he sabotaging his own career? But those who knew him best, friends from his janitor days, old neighbors, the local diner staff, saw something else. He wasn't retreating. He was recentering. Richard had become a symbol not just of raw talent, but of a man unwilling to sell his soul for a spotlight. Financially, Richard's prize money gave him a comfortable cushion, reportedly close to $1 million. But contrary to rumors, he didn't splurge recklessly. Instead of buying a Beverly Hills mansion, he invested modestly in a cozy home outside Indianapolis, estimated at around $350,000. He drives a practical Tesla Model Y, not flashy, but efficient. And while many stars indulge in rare watches or designer wardrobes, Richard's most expensive accessory might be a sentimental one. His late wife's necklace, worn discreetly beneath his shirt. His financial strategy surprised many. Low-risk index funds, a small stake in a local music school, and a private trust for underprivileged kids. This wasn't a man chasing wealth. This was a man building legacy. Industry analysts estimate his current net worth to be around $2.5 million. But what sets him apart is the intentionality behind it. No private jets, no vacation homes in the Maldives, just thoughtful investments, a top-tier insurance plan covering health and performance risks, and a strong focus on emotional healing. One meeting in particular stood out. Simon Cowell invited him to a quiet, post-show talk. "You've got every door open now," Simon told him. "But not every door leads somewhere you want to go." It hit Richard hard. That same judge who once said, "I don't accept this," after Richard's first audition, now offered advice that resonated more than applause ever could. Fame fades. Authenticity doesn't. Back in Indiana, returning to the middle school that once defined his daily routine, Richard faced a flood of memories and heartfelt support. And ask yourself, in a world of noise, who dares to sing softly with soul? And there you have it. Fame, heartbreak, and the raw truth behind the spotlight. If Richard's journey moved you, hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories. Because sometimes, the most powerful notes are sung after the music stops.